Excellent. Okay. So for those of you who are just tuning into the recording, we're about to begin documenting all of the awesome free resources in the community. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And here it is. So we can go ahead and just kind of work our way down the list. I'll explain like the sort of framework that I have, and then we can just like, if something comes up for you, we can start plugging away at those things. Or if you want to like kind of skip around, and if we're talking about like compost, but then you start thinking about tools and some place that you found free tools or cheap tools, then we can go down and work on that too, if that makes sense. But I'll go down the list right now, and we can sort of like get the understanding of like the sort of breadth of all of the cheap and free stuff that exists in the community, and then we can attack it from there. So we've got bulk supplies up here at the very top. And within that, like you had mentioned earlier, Linda, is compost.
Mhm.
People are able to get compost from their municipalities.
Yes,
I've got the Waterworks Park one listed here right now already, as well as Growing Hope's farm. At Growing Hope, we're producing our own compost and giving it away in the community. Next week, Saturday, we're going to be having a free swap meet. And there's still a little bit of compost at our site left. And if you want to come with a trash bag or a tote and fill up with compost, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, Alexa, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So a few years ago, at least, when I got compost from Growing Hope, I don't think it came from Growing Hope. So you're saying that now you have your own that you supply?
Yeah, that's a great clarifying question. So before we were buying it, and we still buy, like it's 50-50 garden soil and compost mix from Superior Wholesale Landscape. And that was like the big pile that was out front for people to come and take. And we're thinking about doing that again this year. So you can, keep your ears tuned for an update on that in the coming weeks. But last year we started actually making compost as well and giving it away into the community, and people really liked it, um, which was really cool. So we want to keep doing that too.
I mean, honestly, it was extremely helpful. So I just want to let
Yeah,
you know. Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was really cool to be able to do that. And I'm really happy that people were able to take advantage of it. Yeah, Linda, what you got for us?
Oh, I was just going to say, if you wanted to add, I can give you the rest of that information. For the Ypsi Township residents,
Uh-huh.
it's charge of the compost for the wood chips is free, and that's over at the place there on 2600 East Clark Road. That's at the Ypsi Township compost.
Very good. And then how is it that people can go, they just go and pick it up from that site? Do they have to like call ahead or anything like that?
Nope, you just show up and show your ID of residency, and you're able to get it. And you don't have to get it all at once. They usually like to try to get a yard, but what he'll write it down. Say if you're in a small something, you have to uh, maybe take a trip back home, dump, and make a trip back home. You can do that all in the same day. Yeah.
Is there a limitation on how much people can take?
Free is 2 yards, and then after that you pay. 2 yards of wood chips and 2 yards of compost. What it's been.
Linda, is that only for Ypsi Township residents or the city as well?
It's for Ypsi Township residents. Ypsi has their free compost and dirt down, wood chips and stuff down there.
Spring Street.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. And it's very full right now, I must say.
Oh.
And Linda, from your experience with that, how's the quality of that compost? And is that all compost that's made in the township?
Good.
It's
It's
good
been
quality?
good. Actually, it's a lot cleaner than that's in it down at the Ypsi there.
Yeah, the Ipsy one is trash.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's made in the township?
Pardon me.
Is it made in the township, or are they getting it from somewhere
Yes,
else?
yes, I
Yep,
believe so. I believe
that's
they're
awesome.
making. Yeah. They do
Yeah.
have a higher grade of wood chips and stuff that, like I say, that is you have to buy.
Okay. Okay. Very good to know. And then do you know if there's hours for that?
Let me see. I have them down here. Normally, when they start back up in the spring, it'll be 8 to 4. And I don't have my book with me, but all this information can be found in the Ypsi Townships and the residents manual handbook that was passed out.
Very good. Yeah, since we're on the topic of compost, thank you so much for all the good information. At Waterworks Park, the one that we were talking about a moment ago, I've gone down there a handful of times and gotten wood chips because there are wood chips down there. And I have that listed here under wood chips as well. And I'll add the Ypsi Township as well under the wood chips option. But the quality at the Waterworks Park facility is really, really bad. It's full of trash. One of my neighbors said that they found like a syringe in that material once. So they're not sifting it very well. And from my experience, it doesn't seem very like nutrient dense. And that's like the big thing with compost, right? Is that we want nutrient dense organic matter, not dead, dirt. We want good, healthy soil that has microbial life and mushroom life, rather than just like literal garbage and trash. Yeah, Alexa, go for it.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you. I think that honestly, it's just a dumping site, and then the city hopes for us to take it away. Um, to be
Yeah,
honest,
yeah,
otherwise, I don't know where else it goes.
yep.
And I also don't understand the trees they're taking down in the first place. I had an experience where I was living at a house for about 10 years where we took down an oak tree in the front yard because between the sidewalk and the street there was a tree that was obstructing the sidewalk, and the city tried to fine me for it, and I
Mm.
said it's the tree's fault, and like whose fault is it? Anyway, that all got absolved, but that tree ended up in that pile, and how many other trees, why are they just taking down trees is another question of mine, but what I'm not sure where to get good wood chips. I don't know how much they care. It's just
Yeah.
it's there, and I think that when you drive up, there might also still be a private property sign. Like it's not like, hey, come get it. It's
Hmm.
just like, hey, it's here, and people that know. Um,
Yeah.
I have more to say later.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happy that you brought that up. I know that the only sign that I know at the Waterworks Park location in Ypsi is that non-Ypsi residents are not allowed to take it, and you're not allowed to take it out of the city of Ypsi. That's like a sign that's explicitly there. They
And
just
there's
like
still nobody monitoring it though.
there's no one monitoring it. So like, what does that even mean? Like, it's very unclear. The city doesn't advertise it very well, and the pile just kind of comes and goes haphazardly. It's very. It sounds like the township has a little bit more of like a process around it, which seems a little bit more straightforward for people. Um, so we've got the Growing Hope Urban Farm making our own compost that is a very small quantity. We definitely can't provide like, a whole truck bed full for people. We're making small batch compost and we're all turning it by hand. We have volunteers that come and help us on Saturdays during the spring, summer, and fall. If you'd like to come, you're more than welcome to come and help us turn compost and take some away with you, as well as some fresh produce. You can find volunteer information on our website. There's the Waterworks Park in Ypsi. There's Superior Wholesale as well. You can purchase compost from them. That's where, once again, we purchase our compost from. It's $35 a cubic yard for garden soil mix. Once again, that's a 50-50 mix of garden soil or of topsoil and compost to make a garden soil mix. Thank you, Charlotte. And we got a new person joining us. Welcome. They move it with front loaders. So if you want to go there and pick it up, you have to come with a pickup truck so they can dump it. And if you can't, they do deliveries. And I was just able to the other week land a deal with Superior Wholesale where, and I can bring this up here on my screen if you guys can still see it. No delivery fees for compost and garden soil at Superior Wholesale. It's for shipments of 1 yard or more only. So they stress that if you're ordering a half yard or a quarter yard, this deal doesn't apply. So if you order a yard or more, they'll waive your delivery fee. You still have to pay for the material, but the fee is $50. So you're saving $50 on getting fresh soil delivered to your home if you're ordering a yard or more. And if you're ordering with community members, and this is what I like to emphasize, is if you're doing it collectively and buying cooperatively, $35 a cubic yard, you could buy, several yards, have it dumped at one location that's easy for that truck to come and dump at, and easy for all of you to come and take from, like a parking lot or a front yard or someplace that's really accessible, and divvy that up, and waive the delivery fee, and spread that wealth in the community that way. All you have to do is say that Growing Hope sent you, and they'll waive that fee. So if you do call and ask for a waived delivery fee on your 50/50 mix, just make sure you say that Growing Hope is waiving that fee for you. Yeah, go for it, Alexa.
This is specifically really good soil for growing vegetables and herbs, or potting mix kind of thing.
For both. You could definitely use it for a potting mix. It's not going to have like the same like particulates in it that are going to allow it to like drain like a potting mix would. But it's really, really good stuff that we use at our farm for all of our growing, and it's the same type of stuff that we use in our home vegetable garden beds. So yeah, it's definitely applicable for both, small potting mix or for your garden or for a farm. And it's pre-mixed stuff too, so it's really good. You don't have to like mix topsoil into it, but you can add amendments to it or stuff to help it drain or filter better. And then, like Linda said, there's the township. So that's a few options in the area locally to get free or cheap soil specifically. Does anyone know of any others in the area that we might be missing? Got a lot of other stuff that we can cover too, so we can keep cruising if you like.
I didn't get my hand up, but I was going to say, you might make sure you put in there that, hey, if you don't need it, allow your neighbor to go get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because they say you can do that as long as they come with their ID and everything, and it's crossed off on their for their address, you're good.
Yeah, that's a really good note, and thank you for encouraging me to add that to the notes. I know you said it. Thanks for reminding me that you can have your neighbors pick up on your behalf. That's really cool. Alexa, what you got for us?
There's something about, I haven't been in contact with them for a number of years, but I think it's worthwhile looking into Dawn Farms and what they're doing. Project Grow, I think, is the separate organization involved with them. And I hope that Jesse Tack is still there, but he was doing worm composting and a bunch of plant sales, and I think that they have a bunch of compost there too. It might be beneficial for Growing Hope to reach out to Dawn Farms and find out what's going on with their farm program.
Okay, thank you for that note. I put that in the notes to reach out to them and see what they've got. Are you saying that they were giving away compost at some point or selling it?
Not necessarily. I'm not sure exactly their role, if it's just like beneficial for themselves and their farm, but I feel like they're very connected to the community the best way they can be, and they might be a resource. I mean, this is like, I don't know, 6-8 years ago. I could like go buy native plants at the Dawn Farms. So I'm not sure what they're up to right now. I haven't looked into it in very many years.
Okay, cool. That's really good to know. Yeah, I know that they have a lot going on over there, so I think you're right. It's worth checking in. They also have like they're using their land cooperatively. I think they're called the Cooperative at Dawn Farm in some form or another now, and there's a few different people that are doing different types of things on their property, so that's absolutely possible. Thank you. For wood chips, there's the Waterworks Park again. You got to bring your own shovel. There's Ypsi Township. Thank you once again, Charlotte, for posting that one. And then there's Chip Drop. And Chip Drop is something that people use. It's an app that you can download on your phone. And it allows you to get basically like a queue in line waiting for people who are doing like tree removal services to take their like wood chips that they have from their sites and dump them on your property. It's easier for the workers rather than having to like dispose of all of those wood chips or bring them to a municipal site or something like that. On their route, they're able to like drop off at your house and then like go depot or go to the next job and stuff like that. So it helps them out, helps you out because you get your free material. And we've done this at Growing Hope before. If you want to expedite the process of getting wood chips, you can pay them. You can like do a tip basically and send them like 20, 30 bucks. And it bumps you up in the line, and you can get it sooner. Obviously, it's seasonal, so you're gonna have more of a chance of getting wood chips in the peak of like the summertime when there's more tree removal happening, as opposed to the winter time, right? So it's definitely seasonal, and it's not a guarantee. I have a neighbor who never got their chip drop, and the app is kind of funny in that once you apply for one, I don't think it allows you to apply for others, and you're kind of stuck at your address as well. Like you have to load your like address in, so you can't like, I don't believe, have it sent to like different locations on one address on one phone. So you have to think about where you want it, where are you going to apply, and you have to be ready for a wait. You're not going to get it like the next day or even the next week or sometimes even the next month. It could take some time. But it's worth a shot if you're looking for, you know, cheap stuff and you're not on a schedule. Jesse's asking if that app is for Android too. And Charlotte, you have your hand raised, and I know that you've done the bulk of the ordering recently on the farm. So if you want to take the floor.
Yeah, I was just going to say I haven't used it on my phone. I've just used it on like a computer browser. So I'm not sure if it's for Android. I haven't tried using it on like different phones. But if you have a computer or someone in your household does, you could use it on your browser. And then I was going to just say that it does help and makes things often get delivered faster if you do agree to like pay. I think it's just like a delivery offset cost for them. It's just 20 bucks. And that often makes them actually deliver it within some time that's more reasonable than like several months. Because we were having that same trouble where we would we would like sign up for a chip drop and then it would be like months would go by and nothing would happen. So yep. It incentivizes the folks who are dropping off the chips to like come do it. But you can get it done for free too. If they're in the neighborhood, they're more likely to come to your place and drop off.
Yeah, Alexa, what you got for us?
Yeah, I just remembered actually that when I had a house space, I would contact Dave Steinhauser. Used to be a farmer specifically at the Ann Arbor Farmers Market, and I think that he's only mainly working with Ypsi Farmers Market, but I haven't been to either in a couple of years now. I can't remember the cost, but he specifically works with cows, and if anybody needed manure, I believe he would do free delivery in Ypsilanti because he wasn't very far away. Maybe if I had to guess, $25, $50 for a yard, but you'd have to check with him. Dave Steinhauser.
Okay.
For manure specifically.
He's okay with people contacting him, cold calls?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll add that to the compost and garden soil.
Okay. Yep.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, manure is really good for mushrooms, I think, specifically, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if it's cured, you know, and it needs to be like, you know, it can't be fresh, but if it's cured, you can use it in your garden soil as well. I used it in mine. I got some horse manure from some farmers south of here, and it was cured over the course of 2 years. And so it was really good stuff. But how do you spell Dave's last name?
Stein Steinhauser, Houser.
Okay.
If you need to reach out another time for clarification or information, just let me know. Steinhauser. I think it's H-A-U. It might be H-O-U. H-A-U sounds correct.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
He
I'll
used to
follow.
supply, he used to get grain from Corner Brewery actually, and then supply Corner Brewery with burgers from his
Cool.
cows. Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. Did anyone have any more questions about Chip Drop too before we move on from there? Cool. So we're knocking this list out pretty good. I'm really liking especially like the manure. I like definitely had a horse guy, but I don't know if horse guy wants, horse guy's information out in the public. So that's why I asked if Dave was okay with it. It's good to know that he does. It would probably be worth checking, just, double checking before we throw his contact information on this sheet. He has like a million people asking for cow manure. Um, but if
Absolutely, I can call him. No big deal.
that'd be great. And if you do, just send me that information and then I can add it to this list too. And if anyone else comes up with anything else that's like kind of like out there, wing nutty, like that's what this is for. And so we can move on down to plants. That's the next area here. For seeds, we've got Growing Hope, our home vegetable garden program. Offer seeds, and we also do distribution throughout the year at our seedling distributions. We'll offer seed packets as well for people to come and take. You can follow our social media to find out when those distributions will be. They're going to be coming up in the next couple of months as things get warmer outside. The Ypsi District Library also has a seed library. And I'm curious if anyone knows more about it. I personally haven't used the seed library at the Ypsi District Library, so I'm not sure exactly how it works. Does anyone have any experience with it, or other libraries that are doing this
I
type of
mean,
thing?
honestly, all I know is that there, a few years ago anyway, there was an online ordering form and I didn't participate, and I didn't actually participate. So I don't know. I was just I just obtained the information about an online ordering form and that was it. That's all I know.
Okay. That's good to know that they have an online ordering form. I added that, and then I'm going to go through after this workshop is over and clean these notes up. So if I can find hyperlinks or contact info or any other like details, I'll add that. So thanks for letting me know. And I'll do the same with the Growing Hopes home vegetable garden program as well. I'll just leave that there for now. I also know that if you give me just one moment while I go through all my tabs, I was just tipped off that you can use your SNAP benefits to grow food. I had no idea about this, but the USDA allows you to use SNAP benefits to buy seeds and seedlings, which is really amazing. And so I have this hyperlink here that I'm going to add to the notes for people who want to explore that option and tell people about it as well. Yeah, Alexa, what you got for us?
Honestly, the best resource that I've come across and over the years, knowing this information you just shared, is Argus Farm Stop, because they have a really good way of anything you get fresh. The with the EBT card specifically, it's half off. Even these things that you're growing. So or trying to grow the seedlings. So like I'm pretty sure the seedlings are half off when you are purchasing them, even as a growing plant that hasn't produced anything for you yet. Just to say, I know they're doing some restructuring because the food, like there's two different cards for EBT. The one that provides you with a 50% discount is putting some pressure on Argus right now, but they do the best they can. I think they're the best resource, one of the best. I mean, there's still the Ann Arbor Farmers Market and the Ypsi Food Market. You can get half off no matter what, but it's so easy to go into Argus and just like, I want these things, and they just give you the half off discount, put it straight into your Bridge card instead of having to worry about the other card you have to use, whether or not you decide to put on or spend from. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember the name of it.
I I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but if you can think about it, just message me and let me know. Or if anyone who's like
Sorry,
watching
it's Fresh
this,
EBT. It's the second card. It's Fresh EBT. Like if
okay,
you go to the Ypsi Food Co-op, they say, okay, if you're getting produce, then it's half off, but do you want to put it on your fresh EBT card, or do you want to spend what's on your fresh EBT card? And it's confusing. If you go to Argus, it's like, okay, they just take half off immediately, any kind of fresh produce you get. And that I believe it includes any of the seedlings you get during the growing season for those.
Cool. That's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you for that. So thank you, Georgette. I'm reading the notes or the chat right now. Georgette is saying that she has another meeting to go to in a few, but wanted to add that freeheirloomseeds.org and AW Weed Swap groups on Facebook. I'll add freeheirloomseeds.org to our list. Thank you. And I'm gonna look into that because freeheirloomseeds.org, I'm curious how they like finance what they're doing. That's really interesting. So let me see here.
Well, I'll just add another thing from Georgette that I think she was mentioning about the library. I think seed library is what you're talking about at Whitaker Library.
Is that?
Okay. It's upstairs, and I've only seen a few in the cabinet on occasion. It's on an honor system from that cabinet or box. So you can basically, like, I guess, take seed packets and then bring back what you don't use, sounds like.
That's good to know.
From the Whitaker Library. Oh, and you can donate. Cool.
Very good. Thank you very much, Georgia. Thanks for being here for a little bit. And I hope you have a good time on your next meeting. And thank you again, Alexa, for sharing that information about the garden seedlings at Argus Farm Stop with the EBT. That's really, really great to know. So I'm just adding a little bit. And obviously Growing Hope, we do our distribution in the spring and summer. And you can follow us on social media or watch out for emails for updates on when those distributions are going to be. Charlotte and I are working on planning all of that out right now, and we'll have some information for you in the coming weeks. I also have, if you're interested in buying bushes, trees, and shrubs, this includes fruit trees. The Washtenaw County Conservation District, who we'll be mentioning later as well for other resources, they're selling fruit trees, shrubs, and bushes on an annual basis. I have the link here in the notes under bushes, trees, etc. They're a really great resource. I'm also going to add that at the end of the year, they're looking to just give away as much as they can. They were going to like donate some to us potentially last year for us to sort of like give away, but I don't think that actually came to fruition. But at the end of the year, you can give them a call and ask if they have any that are discounted or for free that they just want to like get rid of. That's a really good resource too if you're looking for fruit trees, shrubs, and things like that. When it comes to seeds, seedlings, shrubs, plants, trees, of all of that type of stuff, does anyone have any other sort of resources that come to mind? Anything that they've seen in the past? Weird shelves and cabinets that have seed exchange? Are there like people in the community that might have like a club that are like doing heirloom seed saving together? Is anything else coming up for anybody?
Actually, it's been a number of years again, but possibly Eastern's organization. I just cannot remember the name right now. A friend of mine would know. We could talk about it, but they haven't been involved in a number of years. It's their Eastern's Community Garden Organization. I feel like they were involved in a lot of seed exchanges and
Mhm.
growing exchanges.
And then do you have like a name of that group or like anybody that we might be able to ask for more information?
There's okay, I think the person that is most likely to respond would be Erica Mooney,
Okay.
if you know them. I can reach out otherwise.
Okay. Yeah, that might be
Yep.
best so that we don't have like once again like armies of people. Obviously we don't have armies of people on this call right now, but just for
Yep.
anyone who might be watching the recording, reaching out to
Yep.
individuals. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I'm
if you
just, yep.
yeah, and if that goes for anybody, if anyone has anything that you like think of after the fact or people that you talk to after the fact and you want to like put it in this list, like just contact me and I'll add it. Okay. So we can go ahead and keep moving through. And once again, we can bounce back up to seedlings, and plants too. But let's try to attack tools. Um, so next week, Saturday, Charlotte and I are going to be hosting at the Growing Hope Urban Farm at 922 West Michigan Ave. We're going to be hosting a free garden supply swap meet. I just made a Facebook event for it. It's on a few different Facebook groups now. I was able to be on a call with Linda and her group of gardeners out in West Willow. And I'm really, really excited to try to get people from across the city and township to come together and share their garden resources that they have, tools, chicken wire fencing, outdoor lawn keeping equipment, anything that you might have to help with garden and landscaping. And then for people in the community, obviously, then to come and get things for free as well, to do like a true free swap meet. We at Growing Hope have a handful of things that we've had that are collecting dust that are in workable condition. We've got rain barrels. We've got custom made 3 foot tall tomato trellises. We've got hand tools, garden tools, and a few broken materials that could be fixed up for people who have the time and the skill to be able to fix some fans that are just need new bases and things like that. So that's a really big one for anyone who's wanting to get involved and just be outside and have some hot chocolate, get some free stuff, listen to music with people, and just network. This is, I think what I love about springtime. So hopefully we get a lot of people coming out, sharing the wealth together, and spreading some joy and growing some hope at the same time. So that's a good event. Please feel free to invite anybody and everybody that you can, especially people who are able to bring stuff. I'm going to be flyering a lot in Normal Park and encouraging people to donate their supplies so that we can sort of, have a good base of things. But Growing Hope has a lot to share as well. When it comes to tools, rentals are another option. Deluxe is a really great rental option. They're usually a little bit cheaper than Home Depot or what's the other one? Sun. I can't remember the name. Does anyone else remember the name of that landscaping company that you can? It's like a tool rental supply company. It's like Sunco or something like that. I know it's not Sunco, but what was that? Is it Sunward? No, that's Sunward Co-housing in Ann Arbor. Anyways, there's another one that's green with a yellow sun, and you can rent supplies from them too. But they're on the expensive end. Home Depot can get a little bit expensive, but Deluxe has usually really good prices for rentals, and the team there is really nice. And they will take care of you. And I've ordered supplies from them before. I had a stump grinder that I used the other year, and they were really helpful in problem shooting issues that were coming up with it. Or I had a large pump that I was using to suck up water from a cistern, and it had some issues as well, and they were really responsive to me. And sometimes we'll even come out on site and help if there are issues. I've had that happen before too. So really good group. Like I said, affordable prices if you're looking for rentals of heavy equipment. They have trailers available and things like that as well. And they're just right on Congress, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Does anyone else have any like sweet tool deals? Are there any like tool libraries that people know about that are public, or other ways to find like garden tools or like heavy landscaping equipment?
I thought that Growing Hope used to have one, just have to say it's got to be 4 or 5 years ago now. A tool lending library.
Yeah. Yeah, it was something that Growing Hope did in the past. Full disclosure, a lot of the tools that we're going to be sharing in the community are tools from that project that have just been collecting dust over the past couple of years. Because that project, kind of like a lot of IPSI, like a lot of Growing Hope projects, like the Ypsilanti, for instance, which I know people really liked when it was around, but then it, stopped happening. It's just kind of come and gone. And so a lot of those tools that are from that tool sharing library, we're just going to be giving away so that people can use them. People that want them can come and take them. Not all of them, because we're going to keep some stock for people who like the public library last year, for instance, wanted to borrow some tools. So they reached out to us and we had some to be able to share. So we're going to keep some to be able to do that kind of stuff. But the lending library model for us just wasn't really working. I think mostly because it's not like, I think they work best, those tool lending operations, when it's like based in community, or you have like designated people being able to coordinate around that. But when you have a skeleton crew garden team, it's hard to run a free tool library program at the same time. Linda, what you got for us?
Yeah, I don't know if you would want to put it on. We have West Willow has a lending tool shed that has, or library.
I call it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know because it's just designated for the residents here.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut anyone off.
I can specifically say that too, because I think for anyone who's from West Willow who's looking at this resource list,
Right.
And they see that, I think that would be really awesome. Yeah, Jesse, what you got for us?
And it's located up on Tyler Road at
Okay.
I can't remember. I used to know it at the tip of my tongue. But yeah, and they do have someone that's in charge of that. But if you would just contact a New West Willow Neighborhood Association, you could get that name. So right now, I know they last year they were on. You call in, you call that person, they would meet you up there and get it. They have a lot. Not only it's for for gardening, for lawn and all. Yeah.
That's so good to know. And I'll look up the information for that when I have a moment. Jesse, did you have your hand up too?
Yeah, this is actually Bree, Jesse's partner.
Cool.
But I'm more familiar with the Metro Detroit area.
Okay.
And downtown Detroit, it's kind of like near the DIA-ish. There's the Carhartt. It's the Carhartt company. So makes hats and other stuff. I don't know. They actually have a tool share free rental going to that a lot of my friends have used for fixing up their houses. I know that's a bit of a hike, but if it's not just I don't know what they have for gardening tools really, but they might have some.
That's awesome. And do you know if that's just for Detroit residents or if anyone can go and pick stuff up?
I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't, because I haven't rented from there because they didn't have what I needed, but I don't remember that being a stipulation. I mean, it could be. It just wasn't on their website.
Oh yeah. But
I don't think it was.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Charlotte, for responding to that in the chat. I'm going to look up that website, and then if it is just free for anyone, that would be really awesome. Because if it's something that's pretty expensive, once again, a stump grinder from Deluxe, although Deluxe has pretty good prices, it's still it could cost you $300 if you're going to need it for 2 days. And driving to Detroit and back, if you have a trailer, if you could get a piece of equipment that costs that much money, that would save you quite a bit. So I would,
Yeah,
I would go ahead.
yeah, my friend got something. I don't know. He posted on Instagram. Like, I think it was something like to do with like cement work. Like, I don't know. It was like something more heavy duty and industrial too. So like, I don't know if they have that kind of stuff. They probably have like some good options.
Hell yeah, that's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that. This
Mhm.
is the bread and butter. Yeah, this is good. Alexa, do you have your hand up still, or is that from an old one?
I do actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was curious very specifically, like I feel like there's different tiers with people working in their garden or doing landscaping, like it, and having a list of like what people need at a certain tier would be very helpful. Like they just need a shovel and like a claw and a tiny little hand trowel, or do they need a pitchfork? Or do they need a cement mixer or a um I'm having some trouble remembering a stump grinder, for example. Like
Mhm.
I think there's different tiers. And so knowing what people need might help get an edge eventually and like providing those resources for people in the community. I don't have a list specifically. Like I have a shovel and I know where to get to borrow a cement mixer, like personally, but if the community needs that, I just don't know if they need it or not.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, like I was saying earlier, I appreciate you saying that. With like tool lending libraries, the West Willow one, for instance, is for West Willow residents. And I think having like some kind of like locality, right, around like tool lending libraries. I think the best like garden lending libraries that I've ever seen are for like people gardening in a community garden. So like all the people working that land together are using the tools collectively so that there's like accountability and transparency and where the tools are going and how they're being used and when they're coming back. But like these sort of like broader projects of like the whole city of Ypsilanti, I think that's why like the Growing Hope one probably didn't work. That was before my time. But it becomes a little bit like, abstract at a certain angle. So I think like people taking it upon themselves in their neighborhoods to form relationships and to build projects where they're sharing resources collectively is, I think, like a way more effective model than having like Growing Hope do it, on behalf of the entire community. Um, did you have your hand up again, Alexa? I'm sorry. I keep like I'm looking at a few different things.
Actually, I forgot to put it down, but I will just say that I remember Park Ridge Community Center was trying to build a tool shed a number of years ago, and so possibly they would be someone to reach out to as well. It's no, East Side, Park Ridge.
Yeah, they're down on the south side of Ipsy.
Yep.
And yeah, I will take note that they were trying to do that and see if they're still doing it. Excellent. We can move on then, and once again keep bopping back to other things that we've mentioned before if anything else comes up. I think this has been really, really helpful so far. We've got irrigation and rain catchment. Um, the Washtenaw County Conservation District, who we had mentioned earlier, they have the like fruit trees and shrubs and bushes. They've also got rain barrel sales, and Growing Hope and the Washtenaw County Conservation District are going to be doing a workshop together this summer. Um, I can give the date for that here in a second. But on their website, which I have listed in the notes, you're able to purchase, rain barrels from them, and they'll bring them to a few different locations. They're going to be meeting, for instance, at the Ipsy Farmers Market, and you can purchase them in advance. They'll bring them to that location, and you can come and pick them up from them. And they have like some really basic information on their website about installing and maintaining rain barrels as well, if you're interested. And then at the Growing Hope workshop, that's going to be another site for you to be able to purchase in advance and collect your rain barrels as well, which is pretty exciting that they're doing that. So I just added the workshop details in the notes here. And Charlotte, please correct me if the June 18th date is incorrect. Yeah, go for it, Charlotte.
I think it's right. I was just going to say that I'm not sure if because they're able to do the distribution at the farm on June 18th. I'm not sure they're going to do the farmer's market.
I see. Okay.
I'll ask about that again.
Okay. But they do have their list of where they're going to be distributing on their website, though, if that isn't one of the locations. Thank you for making that specification. And then once again, at the distribution next week, we have a few rain barrels Growing Hope does from past projects, but not many. We're going to be doing one per person. We only have about 8 of them, or maybe like 6, depending on how many we choose to keep. And I'm sure those are going to go pretty quickly. We don't have any sort of like, PVC or, guttering materials for people, just the rain barrels themselves. So I'm hoping that we can get those out into, like, especially with all of the resources that we have, people who are low income, renters, Black and brown people who are going to use this for, subsistence. I think that'd be the coolest thing possible for us to get this in the hands of people who can't go out and buy a rain barrel. This event that we're hosting next week is for that reason, not for people who are looking for a cheap deal and can't afford things. We're looking for people who like really need stuff and don't always have access to it. Yeah, Linda, what you got for us?
Yes. Would you be able to help show someone how to repair one?
How to repair one?
Yeah.
So on the June 18th event that we have coming up, that would be a good place to ask that question.
Okay.
It depends on the level of damage that you've got. I might be able to come out and take a look if you're asking for help. And in which case you can email me and we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have very limited experience with rain barrels, but I might be able to be of some help unless it's like really, really busted. Yeah, go for it. I hope not. Yeah. But if you need a new one, then you know where to look. Let's see here. Okay. If you have your hand up, go ahead. I'm seeing the like hand options kind of coming and going.
I keep forgetting to lower my hand. I'm not sure how it looks on your end, but the second that I think to raise my hand, I'm lowering my hand. So I just have to say about the rain barrels, I think PVC is what they're made out of. Specifically, it's plastic, some type of plastic. So I would think patching with some kind of like boat. I can't think of the name. I could maybe help, Linda. Just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I honestly I have to also consider the fact that it needs to be food grade, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the strongest material I've come across as far as patching plastic, or honestly like most anything, has been some kind of boat like epoxy mix, and you can get it at like a marina, or honestly a Home Depot for cement. But like there's a lot of things to consider when you're patching, specifically something like PVC, especially if it's for food. Just to say, but I can think about it and help if you need it.
Cool. Thanks for that, Alexa.
Thank you.
We've got about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to keep trying to rock it through. I don't want to like speed over anything, so I think you all have been really good at raising your hands and inspiring conversation, so keep that up. We've only got a few more points left, and then we can just kind of keep chatting and coming back to things as well, and talking about buying things collectively and starting buying clubs and cooperatives if we want, which I think is really the top part of my priority is like, can we think about how to do this together, instead of getting things for myself and my project, right? So if we move on down then to garden plots, I've got this list here that's available for everyone in the community. I need to do some calling around and make some updates, I think, to this list that I have, but it looks like this, if you can still see my screen. It's a list of the active Ypsilanti community gardens. I have a map of them that I was working on as well, if you're interested in, you know, visualizing where they are in location to you. And all of them have contact information as well that's publicly available. So if you're interested in renting a garden plot from a garden that's near you, the West Willow Community Garden, for instance, is on here. There's Linda's name right there. That's how I got in touch with her last year. And a short description of each of them as well. I have a list as well of ones that are no longer active or need more information, or I wasn't able to get in contact with personally. So if you know of any new garden plots or of any of the ones that are in the red that need to be in the green, or are in the green and need to be in the red, please contact me and let me know. I'm leaving Growing Hope relatively soon. I'm going to go out and shoot a documentary with my partner for the next year. And so I won't be able to continue to update this type of stuff, but my replacement will be given all of this information, and they'll be able to keep maintaining all of this kind of stuff and keeping good relation with people in the community that are doing these types of things. So if you're interested in renting a garden plot, there's a lot of different community gardens in the area that you can check out. Then there's also Ipsy gardening, or yard gardening, I'm sorry, or this like concept of food, not lawns. My partner and I, we live in a house where it was totally fine to be able to rip up the lawn. We don't own our own property, but we live with people that do. And so we were able to rip up the backyard and turn it into a small like urban farm garden type of thing. And that was really cool to be able to have that capacity to start growing more intensive food for ourselves and to be able to share with our community. That was really fun. We were able to grow a bunch of kale and then, you know, harvest it and share it at porch pantries or at the local food pantry that we helped out at. So to see the stuff that we were growing in our own yard going out into the community or feeding our friends or feeding ourselves was really awesome. And house and church lawns can be used to do this if you can make a deal with a church. This is something that people across the country are doing. They're making deals with churches. I have this video that describes this guy. He's a urban farmer. He does this for profit. But if you're interested in what it looks like for people to like make deals with houses and start growing in other people's lawns, this is not like a novel concept. Like if people are doing this and actually making a living off of doing it, people who are landless farmers are making agreements with people in residential areas to start using their lawns to farm on. And sometimes, you know, they're paying for that space. Sometimes it's given to them freely because it's just my yard and I'm not using it and now I don't have to mow it. So yeah, you do whatever you want with it. Or, you know, sometimes there's like a produce share involved. All of these different farmers that are doing this urban residential farming model are doing it differently. But it doesn't just have to be for making money. I think more importantly, if people in neighborhoods were using their yard spaces like this together, that would be moving towards a more food sovereign community, right? Like if people were using their lawns to grow, to feed each other rather than make a profit solely. I think that could be a really interesting model, and it would make the city look prettier, I think. So that's something to consider. Is like making deals and reaching out and talking to your neighbors and to churches or other places that might be sympathetic to allowing their yard space, which is usually going completely unused, to produce food. There's another example of this in Orlando, Florida. These guys are called the Fleet Farmers, and I'm going to show just a 2-minute video here really quick that shows what they're doing. It's really exciting and inspiring and gets me wanting to get outside right now.
The average plate of food travels 1,500 miles from farm to plate, which contributes to 33% of climate change. Meanwhile, the United States has over 40 million acres of lawns, which consume 30 to 60% of the city's potable drinking water. To solve this, the community of Audubon Park in Orlando, Florida, came together to influence the local food system by transforming lawns into microfarms, all by pedal-powered volunteers, and thus, fleet farming was created. Since 2014, the fleet farming program has helped to stop over 10,000 pounds of CO2 from being emitted into the atmosphere. With each passing year, hundreds of volunteers join the program's free community events called Swarm Rides in order to learn more about growing food. This has sparked a massive amount of media attention and ignites interest in this concept across the world. Now that the model is tested, the USDA has developed a farmers market and local food promotion program grant to help fight hunger in the Paramore community in Orlando. This neighborhood has been considered a food desert, meaning the majority of the residents rely on convenience store foods and do not have access to fresh produce within a 5-mile radius. Fleet Farming is proud to announce that in January 2018, local residents will come together with community partners to bring food security to their underutilized lawns. Every community deserves access to nutrient-rich, hyperlocal produce, regardless of income level. Fleet farming is simply a tool to empower neighborhoods to economically influence their local food system, educate the next generation of farmers, and farm for a healthier, more connected world.
So that model is, I think, very interesting in a lot of ways, and I think has a lot of room to grow in a handful of others. It's not really led by neighborhoods and their communities doing this on their own. This usually is, this organization, Fleet Farming, has become a nonprofit organization and is usually like working with like other large community partners, is taking, federal grant money, and is doing this from more or less a top-down kind of approach rather than from a bottom-up grassroots initiative. I think they're doing a lot of really interesting work, very much like Growing Hope. I think I have a lot of criticisms of it, but I think it does a lot of really, really awesome and interesting things and is exposing people to a different way of thinking about food production and food security in their area. Linda, yeah, what do you got for us?
The question was, you kind of hit on some of it probably in just talking right there. Yeah. But the water supply, usually how is that? They would probably use their funds and stuff to pay.
Yeah.
Like so, if I was a resident and I allow, and you're using the property, how would that water that's being used?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So they're either installing like rain catchment on properties that don't have access to water or don't want to use their water. Or they're using the residential water from the houses. And in a lot of these cases, the fleet farmers are offering like a half off. If your yard becomes a fleet farm, for instance, you get half the produce and then they take the other half of the produce and then give it away to other people in the community. So it's not necessarily in all cases about like feeding the people who are using their land. It's usually about like installing a little garden or a farm at a church or at a house, and then taking that produce and donating it to a charity or giving it away to, to another project or to people, in the community in this way. So it's got kind of like a weird thing around it in that way that I don't really think is the best. I think it could be done in a different way, but yeah, the water use is usually from the site that it's on or some kind of a rain catchment system.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that it opens up our heads about thinking about land usage. And there are much more radical models out there in the world that I don't necessarily think are as applicable to the United States context. But one group in particular that I can think of is the Zapatistas in southern Mexico. These are indigenous people that actually took their land back. They were indigenous peasants who were forced into slavery by rancheros, people that took the land to ranch it. These are Spanish conquistadors and their descendants that took indigenous land and were using it for 500 years. And the indigenous people in southern Mexico decided to take that land back. And now they run their communities through direct democracy. They make decisions at the neighborhood level They don't allow GMOs or biochemical pesticides into their communities. They are protecting their seeds and their biodiversity and their ecosystem, and they're doing it together. It's a much different context than the United States, but I think it's important for us to be thinking about how in the food justice and food sovereignty movements, we're thinking about and in conversation with and connected to these other struggles. Black people in the United States, working class white people, indigenous people in the United States, and all people that are being marginalized through age, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, income, all of these different mechanisms that are pushing us around, we can fight back against. And so I think that's the real cusp of all of this. It's not just about getting free and cheap resources, it's about redistribution of wealth and power for people that are being oppressed. So fleet farming is really cool. I think it could happen in Ypsi. And one way that I think that could happen is with the vacant land gardening ordinance that we have in Ypsilanti. In 2013, there was an ordinance that was passed that allowed for the use of vacant land to become garden space. So vacant land in this context means land that's like not developed. So if it's just like, flat plain of land that hasn't been used to build a house or a business or something like that. And so this can either be private land or land that's owned by the city. The most famous piece of vacant land in the city of Ypsi is the Water Street property. That's 30 acres and is a brown site, which means that it's been contaminated and needs to be healed and remediated in order for it to be used. And there's been a lot of push and pull from the city and from the people. The people of Ypsi historically have wanted that to be used in common for the people to be able to take that land and use it for gardening, affordable housing, things like this. Whereas the city has tried to sell it off to developers to become, high income housing or business or something like that. So there's a tension there. But there's a lot of other vacant land in the city. And there's this really awesome resource called Regrid that I can share in a moment. But what Regrid does is it's a parcel map. It allows you to look at all of the different types of properties that are in a city and see which ones are vacant, or you can see which ones are owned by which landlords or which entities, or how many pieces of property the city owns, things like that. It's a really interesting piece of technology that allows you to really investigate your area and see what your options are by way of accessing land or thinking about, who owns the most land in your area and how to, work within the existing system that you're in or work against it, right? So this ordinance, going back to it, it doesn't offer any protections for people that are trying to do community gardening on vacant land. You can make a deal with a private landowner or with the city if you petition your city council rep. And if you get this deal, if the private landowner or if the city agrees, then you're able to garden on that land. It's up to you to form an agreement with the private landowner or with the city that protects you from development. If a development comes and you don't have a protection, you can basically get kicked off that land and your garden will be destroyed. In the last 10 years that this ordinance has existed, it's never been used, at least not to my understanding. And when I was communicating with the city, they don't know of any vacant land agreements with the city that are in operation right now. There's the Frog Island Community Park garden that exists, but that's not vacant land. That's in a park. Same with the Normal Park and Rec Park community gardens. Those are also at a school and at a park. So those aren't vacant land. Vacant land would be like plots of land like Water Street or others that are not being used or developed. They're just sitting and holding right now with nothing happening to them. Some of these are contaminated, which means that they would need to be bioremediated or they'd have to be healed and cleaned up. And if they weren't, then any food on that land could potentially have lead or heavy chemicals on it, which isn't obviously healthy for people. So it's important for people who are thinking about using vacant land to think critically about the type of land that they're inheriting. But if you're able to get it, that's a big plus. That's free land that you can now garden and farm on. And I think it's a highly unused resource in our community. So if we're thinking about food sovereignty and food justice, I think we should really be thinking about how to collectively push for more community gardens that are owned in common with resources that are being shared and collectivized. I think that would be really, really, really powerful. So I'm curious if there's any thoughts or feelings that people are having about all that. I know I just talked for a while, and just shared a lot. And I saw you taking notes too, Charlotte. Thank you for adding to the notes.
Yeah, hi. I'm not sure what happened with Water Street, but quite a while ago, we did like a seed bombing there. Like the city
Yeah.
technically gave certain amount of people ownership as long as they took care of a piece of property. We had a sculpture park there. We had wildflowers growing. And the next thing I knew of, the city just said, no, we're done.
Yep.
Just forget about it. Like I as far as I understood, as far the wildflowers growing, like there was a lot of community conversation about those wildflowers, and if they should just all be sunflowers in order to remove all of the chemicals from the soil. My understanding is that if you cut the sunflowers down before they fall back down into the soil, they remove all of the chemicals that were possibly there in the first place. The other location I can think of, a friend, someone I went to school with, was working on a while ago, the old Boys and Girls Club nearby where I grew up, probably a block away from like East Cross Street and near Boggs gas station. The little dugout was closed down and it's all still vacant land. And I don't know, I think the newest development that people have been talking about in Ypsilanti is nearby. That's all that I can say for now. I'm just having a hard time remembering the street names. That was a while ago too. It's just sitting there. I don't think anybody's doing anything with it. I don't think it's part of the new development or anything like that. Just personally, I haven't done enough research, but just to say, if anybody wants to take advantage of that or reach out to the person who was trying to work on it before that also is an Ypsilanti native, that would be great.
Thank you for that, Alexa. And yeah, just to note really quickly, that like use of sunflowers to clean up land. Sunflowers are really good, particularly at extracting like lead and other heavy metals from soil. They're what are known as like bioaccumulators. They like suck up, and like you said, if you cut them down and then take them off site, a lot of that lead material or heavy metal material is going to be in that plant, which you then have to take care of, which means throwing it in a landfill where it's going to contaminate some other place, or burying it somewhere, something like that. So you have to have like a plan of what you want to do with all of that material to be able to take it off site or put it on a different location on your site. But yeah, the sunflowers and a handful of other plants. I can put a list of bioaccumulators in the notes as well for people who are interested in thinking about bioremediation. It's not like a, very fast process. It takes years and years. Trees are also another process. And I know that a handful of the trees that were planted on the Water Street property were used for that reason, to bioaccumulate. But the land there is incredibly toxic, and I know that there was contention around that. I know that Linda, you had your hand up, and then Charlotte, you can go.
Yeah. So I was going to say, first of all, Peyton, thanks so much for having this workshop. And I had no idea there was an ordinance like that in Ypsi. I grew up in Ypsi, actually not too far from the street that were mentioned, on River Street. And I bet my dad, our family, was the first one that started gardening in that area. And what it led to, like, our neighbors are, so we use it, those plots down there on River Street are half an acre deep. And so my dad was actually gardening 1.5 to 2 acres. And actually, when I had left, but he had chickens there too. But what I was gonna say is didn't even know about this ordinance for the vacant. But I remember there was a metal company or something down in there. And actually, when River Street passed over Michigan, it kind of went down and curved. That street curved, and we came out on the other end there where the little park is. Yep. And where Ypsi has their compost and there. Yep. It used to be every year there was a carnival there. So I
Mm.
remember walking down and through that pathway and looking and said, oh my goodness, just look what they're doing in that place. But I definitely understand why it's contaminated.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that little bit of history too. It makes me really happy to know more of Ypsi's history. It's really rich. We have a really rich area, and it makes me sad to see it just getting sold off for parts or forgotten. Yeah, Charlotte, what do you have for us?
I was just gonna say, like I was gonna follow up with the sunflower comment because you were mentioning that they're good at removing lead and other heavy metals. But I actually, after we were talking about the Water Street Trail at a staff meeting recently, or the Water Street property, and I remember that it may not be that the contamination is the kind that can be removed with sunflowers. So it would be something that it would have to be like a multi-step process, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something to think about with like, there's just so many different toxins that can be in the environment. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a link to my friend Lila Darwish. She's a Palestinian revolutionary. She lives in, depending on when it is, Alberta, Canada, or New Orleans. She kind of switches between the two. Sometimes she's in Oakland as well. But her whole thing is bioremediation. She wrote a book called Earth Repair on grassroots bioremediation. And it's a whole like step-by-step book that talks about first capitalism and how capitalism has been the leading cause in the destruction of our environment, and the thing that creates like really hyper condensed forms of chemicals and heavy metals in our environment that lead to contamination or destroy entire environments because of extraction. And so like it's these like really violent processes that like we're healing from, right? It's not like nature is inherently full of all of this like hyper condensed lead. That lead is being extracted and then piled up and put somewhere, and then it's just left there. Or in the Amazon, the rainforest is being destroyed because of oil mining, and all of that oil is left to contaminate the waterways there, and the indigenous people need to clean it. Or indigenous people here in North America, like we saw with Standing Rock, are fighting against pipelines that are spilling all across and destroying our waterways and our land. So if we're thinking about like what it means to bioremediate, we have to be analyzing like the leading causes, which are white supremacy, capitalism, and environmental destruction, first and foremost. So she begins the book writing about that, and then starts talking about different methodologies for, like you said, Charlotte, taking care of different types of contamination, because sunflowers are really great for heavy metals, but they're not so great for petrochemicals. If you are taking care of petrochemicals like an oil spill, mushrooms are actually really great for that. But you have to do it at a certain time. You can't just like throw some mycelium on the oil and hope that it goes away. There's a timing involved in all of it. So she talks about all of this type of stuff in her book, and I'm going to link the book and a lecture that she has on YouTube in the chat here for anyone who's interested in bioremediation, because it's a really exciting and powerful way for communities to fight back.
Gosh, if that's the case, I mean, getting someone involved like Detroit Mushroom Company, I know the name isn't extremely relevant, but the person that actually owns it, their mushroom company is out of Brighton, as far as I understand, and they work at Corner Brewery. Like they're an Ypsilanti resident. They would probably want to be part of something like remediation for the Water Street property as far as mushrooms go. Just saying.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to reach out. And once again, we're thinking about like public holding or municipal holding of that property too. It's like up to the city ultimately, and the city's bureaucracy, like what happens to that property. And for us, I know like there have been, over the last 20 years, people fighting to try to take public control of that land, and the city's rejected it and has had all of these different failed attempts at selling it off that have included scandals, like the last iteration of the International Village scandal that the former executive director of Growing Hope was a part of, Amanda Edmonds, while she was the mayor. So like thinking really critically then about like the political struggle of like gaining land too, and like the bureaucracy that's like around all of that. is really important. And I know that people have done things like the Water Street Commons group that you were mentioning earlier, Alexa, that was able to like petition the city to allow a small partition to be used for wildflowers and remediation attempts. But then of course the city kind of like folded on that and took it away from people. So I think that there's a lot of different tactics that people could use if they wanted to protest, take direct action, occupy, and try to clean that site and like think critically. There's like a whole group of people that are like committed to this, and there's a few different Facebook groups about it as well. So if you're interested, if you're watching this and getting connected, I would highly recommend searching Facebook, getting connected to some groups, and talking to people about what it means to like think critically about taking land back. And doing that from a decolonial perspective specifically, not just reproducing white supremacy and land, dispossession for white people, but like thinking critically about like, what does it mean to like restore the land from a holistic approach? I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, it's so unfortunate because over the years, the city, as far as I understand, the city put up a fence in a certain area of that property. Like we used to go down there during the sculpture park days and just have like a random gathering, like a happy hour little thing in a shack that was built on the land because we were trying to take it back for the population, for anybody that lives in the area. Just come hang out, have a little fire, have some food. And now there's a fence around the whole thing. All of the sculpture is gone, all the wildflowers, I don't know, like they're just, it's so unfortunate. It's just so unfortunate the way that it is right now. It could be a really big connecting area space for the community, honestly.
Yeah, I know the local Black farmer, TC Collins, he really wants to be able to use the riverfront access to that piece of property, for instance, for what he calls a underground railroad garden. For anyone who's interested in that kind of a concept, I highly recommend reaching out to TC with Willow Run Acres to talk to him about this underground railroad project that he wants to do and is actively doing right now, where he's gardening with specific plants that Black people were using as they were heading north to freedom from the South. And Ypsilanti is a huge nexus point on the Underground Railroad. So his installations of these gardens is a part of that, and he really wants to use part of the Water Street property for that. There's a lot of other types of people that want to do a lot of different things with it. So I think like you're so right that the city is really stifling the ability of the people to like seize that land and do something really powerful with it. Personally, I have to say that as a person and not as a representative of Growing Hope, right?
Nope, I really appreciate it, Peyton. Thank you for providing this space for the conversation and sharing that information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, you were a part of it and everybody else here was as well. And once again, if you're interested in connecting or adding more details, if you were watching from home or watching the recording, please send us a message. Charlotte and I have our email here that I'm going to post. It is farmandgarden@growinghope.net. You're more than welcome to reach out to us for any ideas that you might have or any more additions to this list, or for any updates on community gardens or new community gardens that you may be aware of, any other tool resources that you have. Once again, I'm going to go back through and edit this list that we worked on today to clean it up a little bit and add more information where it's possible. And then we have next week's swap meet if you want to come and talk and like hang out and get some free stuff or give away your free stuff. That's another venue for us to come and meet together as well. And if you have any other events that we can boost, you can use the IPSI Gardener discussion group to boost those events. I know Linda, with your group, that's a good outlet for you all to get plugged into to boost your events. And I would love, with our platform for Growing Hope, to be able to boost your events as well to get more reach. So please use these resources. And if there's any other lingering thoughts or feelings, I'd like to hold a moment for us to talk as well. All if there's anything that I might have missed or anything that like people are confused about or like, no, I disagree with that. Oh, thank you, Charlotte, for posting the Earth Repair book and workshop in the notes too. Cool. It was a very small group today, and it's all people that I know. So I'm really happy that I got to see your faces, and or at least like see your name. In the case of Trish, I know you're listening and probably doing other stuff right now. I'm really happy to know that you were here. And for everyone else that's watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to be a part of this. I really look forward to the next series of workshops that we have coming up. I'm going to go ahead and share those here in a moment. So this is my whole list of workshops for the year. You're kind of getting the sneak peek. So we just finished up finding cheap and free growing supplies. The next one that's coming up in March, on March 11th, which is a Friday at 6 o'clock, is Where's Your Garden? It's a virtual workshop again. It's still going to be cold outside. That one is going to be talking about thinking about your soil quality, the lighting. Are there trees or houses obstructing the light in your garden? Drainage, pollution, like we were talking about today, irrigation. Like you were asking about, Linda, where do you get water from if you're at a place where it doesn't have, you know, a hose or a spigot? And thinking about like zoning laws. And in this community conversation, I really want to talk about like different strategies for empowering each other to grow collectively. So if that means like starting new community gardens or getting connected to existing ones, or, you know, supporting each other by distributing resources or creating bulk buying clubs where we start buying things in bulk together and then distributing those resources out collectively. There's a lot of different things that we can do. So that conversation will be about that kind of stuff. And then Saturday, March 26th, 2 weeks later, that'll be at 2 o'clock p.m. And that workshop is What You're Growing This Year. And Charlotte and I are going to be leading that workshop. And that's about crop planning, rotations, thinking about what exactly it is that you want to grow, and rather than just like, you know, taking a bunch of random seedlings that you can get, you know, at some random event somewhere. Thinking really strategically, do I want to grow salsa this year, or grow produce that I can make salsa with this year? Do I want to grow plants for medicine this year because I want to make a fire cider or some kind of a tincture or a salve for my joints? Thinking really critically about like what we're growing, I think is a really helpful step for new gardeners and veteran gardeners alike. So that'll be a workshop coming up at the end of March. And then in April, we're going to get into seed starting and doing outdoor activities. So if you watch the Facebook, if you've got our emails, you can stay tuned and know that more workshops are on the way. And without further ado, I think I'm ready to wrap this up, unless there's any other last thoughts or if there's other updates or news that people would like to share before we close. You taking off, Charlotte, or do you have something to say? Yeah, you're taking off. Okay. It was really good to see your face, and thanks for helping out with the notes today. All right. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And there goes Linda. Trish and Alexa, it was really good to see both of you. Once again, Trish, C in quotations. I hope that I get to see you in person again soon. And for everyone who's watching the recording, peace and love, and good luck to you in your gardening, solidarity in the struggle against white supremacy, colonization, capitalism, and all of these different forms of oppression that are stopping us from doing the work that we need to do in our community. I believe really strongly that you know, the food justice movement, the food sovereignty movement is alive and well across the world, and we can win despite all the war and aggression and greed that's happening and pollution. I think that very beautiful things are sparking right now in the world, and I'm very happy to be a part of a community that cares. So thank you for watching, and take care.